The wind was cold that night. Dust blew across the dry alien soil. Rhys sat alone in his small outpost, staring into the fire. He had built this shelter with his own hands. Far from the cities, far from the wars, far from the memories. Outside, something moved. It was soft at first, like a weak knock on metal. Then came a whisper, broken and trembling. "Please, someone. Help me." Rhys stood slowly, his hand on the grip of his old plasma rifle. He walked to the door and opened it just a crack. What he saw made him freeze. A woman, barely standing, was holding a child. Her skin was a soft violet, marked with bruises and grime. Her clothes were torn, soaked with cold night dew. But it was her eyes that stopped him. Eyes filled with pain, fear, and something else, desperation. "My daughter is hungry," she said, voice cracking. "I have nothing left." Rhys didn't move. He had seen her kind during the war. Enemy scouts, spies, slaves. He didn't trust them. Not even now. She saw. His hesitation, took a shaky breath, and then lowered her head. Her arms trembled as she held her child closer. "The only thing I have left is my body," she whispered. "If you feed her tonight, my body is yours." The wind howled louder outside. Rhys looked at the child, wrapped in rags, face pale and thin. She wasn't moving much, just blinking slowly. Lips dry and cracked. Rhys didn't answer. He opened the door wider and stepped aside. The woman hesitated, but then stepped in. Shoulders low, heart heavy. Rhys closed the door and locked it behind them. Inside, it was warm. The fire crackled in the middle of the room. The woman moved to a corner, laying the child down carefully. She didn't look at Rhys. She just knelt beside her daughter and brushed the girl's hair with shaking fingers. Rhys watched her quietly, then reached into his pack and tossed her a food bar. She caught it and broke it in half without thinking. Most of it she placed in her daughter's mouth. A small piece she kept for herself. The child chewed slowly, then closed her eyes, breathing softer. "She hasn't eaten in 2 days," the woman said, running, hiding. "It's hard." Rhys didn't speak. He sat across the fire and kept his rifle beside him. "What's your name?" he asked finally. "Luma," she replied. "My daughter is Soli." Rhys nodded once. He poured a small cup of water and placed it near her. She thanked him with a glance. There was no flirting, no seduction, just silence. She had truly offered her body, not because she wanted to, but because she had nothing else to give. "She's very sick," Luma said, not looking at him. "She needs food and rest, and maybe hope." "Why come here?" Rhys asked. "There are other outposts, not safe for us," she answered. "They sell girls like me." Rhys looked at the child again. A slight movement under her blanket, a flick of her hand, drawing something in the dust. He stood slowly and walked to the girl. She had drawn a shape, a star, then a ship, then a cage. Rhys felt something strange in his chest. The girl looked up at him, her eyes not violet like her mother's, but silver and glowing faintly. "You stole her," Rhys said quietly, "didn't you?" "I freed her," Luma answered behind him. "She was born in a lab, bred for something else. They killed the others." Rhys didn't know what to say. He wasn't ready for this. He just wanted peace, a quiet life, far from everything. But now, this mother, this child, and that offer still hanging in the air like poison. Luma stood, facing him. "I didn't mean it," she said softly. "I said it because I was scared. And I thought you'd say no." Rhys turned to her. "I didn't let you in because of that," he said. "I let you in because of her." Luma looked down at Soli and knelt again. The child was asleep now, breathing deeper. Rhys tossed a blanket over to her. "Sleep," he said. "We'll talk in the morning." She nodded, curling around her daughter like a shield. And for the first time in many nights, there was peace. But only for now. Outside, in the shadows of the hills, a small red light blinked once, then disappeared. Asterix morning came slowly. The desert sky was pale orange and thin clouds floated like whispers. Rhys stood at the edge of his outpost, holding a steaming cup of synth coffee. He hadn't slept much, not after what she said. Inside, the woman and her daughter were still asleep, curled up. On the floor near the dying fire, he kept hearing her voice in his head. "The only thing I have left is my body." She didn't say it again. She didn't need to. He had seen her kind before. During the occupation, her race, the Kailari, was once proud and powerful. But after they lost the war, the colonies turned against them. Now they were hunted, sold, or left to rot. No Kailari was welcome here. Not in Sector 9, not even a child. Rhys walked back inside. The girl, Soli, was awake and sitting up. She stared at him again with those strange silver eyes. Eyes too old for someone so small. "You sleep okay?" he asked, trying to sound calm. The girl didn't answer. She just blinked, then looked toward her mother. Still asleep, Luma stirred slowly, then sat up with a soft groan. Her eyes widened when she saw Rhys standing nearby, but he didn't speak. About the night before, he only handed her a tin of water and another food bar. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice rough from sleep. He sat down across from her. "Tell me the truth now," he said. "No more lies." Luma looked down, then back up. "My mate died during transport," she began. "They said it was an accident. But I heard the guards laughing afterward." She clutched the blanket around her. "They took me and Soli to a breeding station for testing. They said she wasn't normal, that she had something rare in her blood. I think it was human genes mixed with Kailari, maybe from old experiments." Rhys frowned. He had heard rumors like that. Black labs trying to create hybrid children for war or science. But nothing had ever been proven. "They tried to take her," Luma said, her voice shaking. "I ran. I've been running for 6 days." She looked at him, her eyes red from tears. "No food, no help, not even from my own kind." Rhys nodded slowly. He understood now why she came here, why she was willing to give up her dignity just to feed her child. Still, there was a problem. "You know what happens if someone finds you here, right?" he asked. Luma nodded. "I'll be arrested," she said, "maybe executed." "And me too," Rhys added. "For hiding you." She didn't argue. She just wrapped her arms around her daughter and pulled her close. "I can leave," she said quietly, "before the sun's high." Rhys stood and walked to the window. The scanner panel on the sidewall blinked faintly. He checked the radar logs and saw something strange. A heat signature had passed near the outpost during the night. It hovered, then vanished. A drone. Maybe. Or a scout. Someone had tracked them, and they weren't far. "You're not leaving," he said suddenly. Luma looked up, confused. "They know you're here already." Rhys added, "If you go out there, you won't make it past the rocks." She said nothing, but her breathing quickened. Soli reached for her hand and held it tight. Rhys turned to face them. "I'm not a hero," he said. "I fought in the war. I killed your kind." Luma's eyes filled with pain. "I know," she whispered. "I saw men like you, but you let us in," she added. "You fed her." He nodded. "I did," he said. "And now I'm responsible." He opened a metal case from under the floorboard, pulling out a plasma rifle and some ammo. "If someone comes here looking for you, I'll deal with them." Luma stood slowly. "You'd fight for us?" she asked. "Even after what we are?" "I'm not doing it for you," he said. "I'm doing it for her." He looked at the little girl, quiet, watching, holding on to her mother's hand like a lifeline, and for the first time, he saw something else in her silver eyes. Something powerful, something deep, not just survival, hope. A small beeping sound echoed from the scanner. Rhys turned, frowning. A red dot flashed on the screen, approaching fast. "Get down," he said. Grabbing his rifle, "Someone's coming," Luma pulled Sully into the shadows. Rhys aimed at the door, heart pounding. He didn't know who was out there, but he knew one thing. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was war, and he had already chosen his side. Asterisk, the red dot on the scanner blinked again, then vanished. Rhys waited in silence, rifle-steady eyes fixed on the metal door. But no one knocked, no drone buzzed overhead, no voice called out, just wind and silence. He lowered the rifle slowly, still tense, still listening. Behind him, Luma crouched in the corner with Sully. The child's head rested on her mother's lap, eyes open, but unblinking. She hadn't said a word since they arrived. Not a cry, not a question, not even a whisper. Most children would have broken by now, but not her. Rhys turned to Luma. "They're scanning," he said, "seeing if anyone's alive inside. Will they come back?" She asked softly. "They will," he answered, "but not yet." Luma looked down at her daughter. She stroked Sully's hair gently, like she'd done it 1,000 times. The girl didn't react. She hasn't spoken in weeks. Luma said, voice low. They hurt her mind in the labs. They called her. Subject 5. Rhys knelt beside them. "Does she understand us?" he asked. "She understands everything," Luma replied. "She just stopped talking one day." Sully looked up at Rhys. Her silver eyes shimmered in the dim firelight. She reached into the dust with her small fingers and began to draw again. Rhys leaned in to watch. A star, then a circle. Then a jagged shape. A ship, a cage, a figure with glowing eyes and no mouth. "She draws her memories," Luma said. "She shows what she can't say." "She's showing me something," Rhys whispered. "Something they did to her." He looked at the girl again. She didn't blink. Didn't flinch, just kept drawing. Then she pointed at the jagged shape, the cage, and tapped it twice. Rhys stared at it, unsure. Suddenly, the scanner beeped again. This time, not red, but blue. Someone nearby, but not approaching, just watching. They're observing. "Us," Rhys muttered. "Waiting for what?" Luma asked, fear in her voice. "For me to make a mistake," he replied. "For me to lead them somewhere." Sully stopped drawing. She stood up, walked toward the scanner panel, and pressed. Her tiny hand on the side. The screen flickered, glitched, then steadied. Rhys blinked, confused. How did she? "She can feel machines," Luma said. "She doesn't control them, but they react to her. She's a hybrid." Rhys whispered, "More than Kylari." "More than human." Luma nodded once. "That's why they want her back," she said. "She's not a child to them. She's a prototype." Rhys felt his throat tighten. He looked at the girl again, the calm in her face, the silence, the intelligence behind her eyes. This child had seen more than most soldiers, and she was only 5. "Why bring her to me?" Rhys asked. "Why not a medic? Or a ship to escape?" "The planet." "I didn't choose you," Luma said slowly. "She did." Rhys stared at her, stunned. "What?" "When I ran, I wanted to head for the southern caves," Luma said, but Sully pointed this direction. "She walked all night, barefoot, straight here. She never stopped, never looked back. She brought me to you." Rhys sat down heavily. The scanner was still pulsing, but the dot hadn't moved. He looked at Sully again. She had drawn another symbol in the dirt, 2 circles linked by a line. One had a flame inside it, the other a tear. "What does that mean?" he asked. Luma looked at it, then shook her head. "I don't know." Sully picked up a charcoal stick and added 2 more shapes, a tall figure. Holding the smaller one's hand, she pointed at the tall figure, then at Rhys. "Your part of it now," Luma whispered. "Whatever she is, whatever they did to her, she trusts you." Rhys stared at the child. He didn't want to be involved, He never asked for this. But her eyes kept pulling him in, and deep down, he knew, if he let her go, if he gave her back to the ones who made her like this, he'd never forgive himself. "We need to move," he said. "Tonight?" "Where?" Luma asked. "There's nowhere safe. There's one place," Rhys replied. "Old emergency shelter under a wrecked terraformer. They don't scan there anymore." "It's far," she said. "We'll carry her," he said. "I've done worse in worse conditions." He looked at Soli again. She didn't smile, but her eyes softened just a little, and for the first time, Rhys felt like she had spoken to him without a sound. But loud enough to change everything. The sun was falling fast behind the canyon ridge. Darkness was coming, but that wasn't what made Rhys move quickly. It was the sky and the humming. A patrol drone had passed overhead twice in the last hour. It didn't fire, it didn't drop scouts, it just circled. And that meant something worse. Someone was watching, waiting to strike. Rhys packed quickly, survival packs, water units, a small thermal blanket, a rifle, a stun knife, no lights, no comms, no signals. The outpost was burned. They were never coming back. Luma helped wrap Soli in a warm cloak. The child moved. On her own, silent as always. She clutched a small cloth drawing, her own sketch from the dirt floor. She had redrawn the symbol again to circles linked. One with fire, one with tears. Luma walked beside Rhys as they moved into the rocky path. "You know they're tracking us," she said. "Probably have eyes on this route already." "They're not looking for this path," Rhys said. "They'll expect us to run west, toward the old rebel shelters, and we're going." "North," he replied, "to the broken earth mover near the cliffline." Luma hesitated. "That place is poisoned." She said, "They said the soil eats metal." "Exactly." He said, "No drones fly there. No soldiers walk there." The wind screamed between the rocks as night settled in. The temperature dropped fast. Soli moved closer to Luma. Her small feet barely made a sound on the stone. Rhys stopped suddenly and crouched. He raised his hand, a signal for silence. Luma dropped low, shielding Soli, a flicker of red light in the distance. Then, gone. Motion scanner, far range, probably scanning for movement. He pulled out a mirror shard and tilted it toward the open slope. Then he saw it, a group of 4 figures moving in tight formation. Armor-clad, silent, too disciplined for bandits. They weren't just tracking, they were hunting. "Keep low." Rhys whispered, "Move when I say." They waited for 5 minutes, hidden under a cracked ledge. The hunters passed above them, silent, mechanical. Rhys recognized the shoulder markings private retrieval unit. "Slavers. They're not military," he said softly. "They want her alive." Luma trembled. "They used to come into the cages at night," she whispered. "Take the hybrids." One by one, Rhys stared ahead, his jaw clenched. "We'll kill them if we have to." He said, "No one takes her again." For hours they crawled, climbed, and slipped between rocks and ruined ground. They didn't speak, they only moved. Soli stayed quiet, but her hands clutched her mother tighter. Sometimes she'd tap once on Rhys's back, like she was warning him without words. By midnight, they reached the ridge. Below it lay the shattered skeleton of an old terraformer machine, twisted metal, cracked hull. But still standing in some places, Rhys climbed down first, scanning for traps or recent movement. Nothing? No. Heat signatures, no signals. They climbed into a side chamber. Broken panels. Empty fuel tanks, but it was dry, and it was hidden. "This is it," he said. "We'll stay here until I figure out where next." Luma collapsed beside Soli. The child curled against her, not crying, not speaking, just holding tight. Rhys sat by the entrance, rifle in hand. The night outside was silent again. But that silence didn't feel safe. It felt like breath being held. Then something moved in the dirt behind them. Rhys spun, weapon raised, but it was Soli. She had stood up, her eyes glowing faintly. She walked toward the old wall and placed her hand on a blackened console. The screen lit up, sparking and flickering. Then, it glowed steady. Luma gasped. Rhys stepped forward, shocked. She activated it, he whispered. She reconnected a dead system. Soli turned to them slowly. And for the first time, she opened her mouth. 3 words came out. Broken but clear. They are coming. Rhys's heart stopped. How many? He asked. The girl didn't answer. She only pointed at the screen. A map appeared, flashing red dots. 5, 6, 10, surrounding the ridge. Trapped, Luma stared at Rhys. What do we do? Rhys checked his rifle, pulled out the last 2 grenades. From his belt pouch, he looked at Soli, then back at Luma. We hold, he said. If they come, we fight. He touched Soli's small hand. Next time, he whispered. When we run again, you'll lead the way. Soli looked into his eyes. And for the first time since she was born, she smiled. They sealed the door just before the storm rolled in. Dust hit the wreck, like waves crashing into a dead ship. The wind screamed through every crack, but inside, it was still. Rhys set up a motion sensor near the entrance. A soft beep showed it was active. It wouldn't stop an ambush. But at least they'd have warning. Luma sat against a broken panel, Soli in her arms. The girl looked tired, her small body stiff, her glow dim. She's using too much energy. Luma said softly, she's not meant to activate machines. Like that, Rhys crouched beside her. She saved us, he said. Those scanners, the map. Without her, we'd be surrounded already. Luma nodded, brushing Soli's hair. She never had a real childhood, she said. Born in a lab, tested before she could walk. Rhys glanced at the screen, still glowing faintly. Where's Soli? Touched it. You said she could feel machines. He said, can she speak to them? Not like we talk, Luma replied. But when she touches tech, it listens. She's not just a hybrid, Rhys muttered. She's something new. The child stirred in her sleep. Her small fingers twitched, then stilled again. Rhys stood and moved deeper into the wreck. The place was huge, once a drilling titan. Now nothing but bones. He found an old ladder, rusted but stable. It led down to a lower chamber, maybe a safer place to rest. He called up, there's space. Down here, bring her. Luma followed carefully, carrying Soli in her arms. The chamber was colder, but dry. Rhys found emergency power cells and hooked them into a heater plate. Soon, soft warmth filled the room. They laid Soli on a thin mat made from old tarp. The girl's breathing slowed, finally relaxed. Luma sat beside her and looked up at Rhys. I never thanked you, she said, for everything. I didn't do it for thanks. He said, but I'll take it anyway. She gave a weak smile. Back at the outpost, she said quietly, I offered you my body. You were desperate, he said. I didn't take offense, but I did mean it, she said. I would have given you anything because I thought I had nothing. Left, Rhys sat beside her. Now, he asked. I still have nothing, she whispered, but for the first time, I have someone. They sat in silence for a long while. Only the hum of the heater filled the space. Rhys checked his weapon again. They had enough ammo for one real fight. After that, it was hope. Luma leaned her head against the wall. I used to dream of growing plants, she said, back before the war. My kind loved gardens. Rhys closed his eyes for a moment. My wife used to grow lavender, he said. She'd fill our tiny quarters with it. Where is she now? Luma asked. Gone, he said. First bomb, second week of the war. Silence again, until Soli stirred. She sat up slowly. Blinking, thirsty, she whispered. Rhys quickly handed her a cup. She drank slowly, carefully. Then looked at them both. They're near. she said, her voice quiet but clear. Reese moved to the sensor pad, blinking red. They had an hour, maybe less. They're scanning the outer shell, he said. They'll find the tunnel soon, Luma. Stood up. I'll lead them away, she said. Draw them to the west side. Let you both escape. Reese grabbed her arm. No, he said firmly. You won't sacrifice yourself. They want her, Luma said. They'll stop at nothing then. We stopped them first, Reese said. He looked at Soli. Can you do it again? The girl stared at the power cell, then slowly nodded. I'll try, she said. But it'll hurt. Reese crouched beside her. We'll protect you, he said. You're not alone anymore. Soli reached out and touched the old floor. Panel, it sparked, then hummed. On the screen, new symbols appeared, doors locking, vents sealing. One word pulsed in Kailari script. Defense. Reese smiled. Good girl, he whispered. Very good. They weren't just hiding now, they were preparing for the first time since the war began. He had something to fight for, and someone to fight beside. The wreck groaned under pressure. Metal plates shifted as if waking from a long sleep. The defense grid, solely activated, was old, too old to last a full fight, but it was enough to delay the enemy outside. The red lights grew closer. Motion sensors blinked faster. The enemy was no longer watching. They were closing in. Reese stood at the highest point of the chamber, rifle in hand. He watched through a crack in the hull as dark figures moved through the rocks. Their armor glowed with blue veins, faces hidden behind masks, not soldiers, not lawmen. Retrievers. Luma stood behind him, her arms wrapped tightly around Soli. The child's face was pale. Her glow had dimmed again. Her breathing was shallow. Reese cursed under his breath. She's burning out, he said. She can't keep doing this. I know, Luma whispered. She's more machine now than child. They made her that way, one of the enemy. Units raised his hand. A loudspeaker crackled. Then a cold, mechanical voice echoed into the wreck. Human inside, it said, you are not the target. Step away from the asset. Reese didn't reply. He waited, eyes on the speaker. The voice came again. You will be spared, it said. Turn over the Kailari and the child. They are marked for retrieval. Marked like cattle. Reese muttered. Luma stepped forward. I know that voice. She whispered. It's not a man. What then? Reese asked. An overseer drone, she said. They use them to command without guilt. The speaker clicked again. You have 1 minute, it said. Or we breach. Reese took a slow breath, then stepped forward. Rifle pointed downward. He pressed the come switch on his belt. I'm not giving them to you, he said. You come in here, and you'll face a storm. Silence. Then a calm response. You were once a soldier. Reese Carvin, it said. Your record is known. You abandoned your post. You live alone because you lost everything. Reese stiffened. Even Luma looked shocked. You seek redemption. The voice continued. This is not the way. Reese clenched his jaw. I'm not looking for redemption, he growled. I'm looking for justice. You will lose. The voice replied. You cannot win. I don't need to win, he said. I just need to make sure she escapes. The voice paused. Then it offered something unexpected. Turn over the girl, it said. We will give you safe passage off-world. You will be given a clean record, resources to start a new life. Luma stared at Reese, fear in her eyes. She knew what deals like that meant. Don't listen, she whispered. They always lie. Reese didn't look at her. He stared at the entrance. Then back at Soli. The girl looked up at him, tired but aware. She reached out with a trembling hand and held his fingers. Soft, warm, small, but full of trust. I know, Reese said. I wasn't going to. He clicked the come again. You made a mistake, he said. You thought I had nothing left to care about. I do now. Silence. Then the sound of movement. They were breaching. Get ready, Rhys said. He handed Luma a backup blaster. Cover the rear. He crouched beside Sully. You don't need to do anything else, he said gently. You already gave more than anyone ever should. Sully nodded once, then closed her eyes and slept. Luma placed a kiss on her daughter's forehead, then stood beside Rhys. You could have walked away. She said, let me take her and run. Rhys shook his head. Not anymore, he said, not after seeing what they turned her into, and what she still chose to be. The door shuddered. Sparks burst from the control panel. A metal arm punched through the gap. They were coming in. Rhys raised his rifle. Luma aimed low. No speeches, no more offers, only the sound of breath and courage. They stood between a child and the world that broke her. And neither was willing to step aside. The door exploded inward. Smoke filled the chamber. Flashes of red light burst through the dust, but Rhys was already moving. He fired first. His shot struck two of the armored figures clean in the chest. The suits sparked and fell, hard against the metal floor. Luma moved next. She fired low. Knocking one soldier off balance, the man didn't scream. They were trained, maybe drugged, they just advanced. Rhys rolled behind a collapsed beam. More figures poured in. 6, maybe 7. It didn't matter. He wasn't leaving without them. Luma screamed as a plasma shock grazed her arm. She dropped to the floor, but still fired, still fought. Sully, still asleep in the corner, began to stir. The wreck shivered. The old power core, faint and unstable, blinked to life again. One of the intruders stepped over Rhys, gun raised. A shot echoed, not from Rhys, from behind. Sully was standing. Now, her eyes fully glowing. The control panel beside her lit up like stars. The walls began to hum. The very metal beneath their feet pulsed with energy. The soldier turned too late. A blast of power surged from the panel. Not fire, not electricity. Something deeper, something alive. It struck the intruders like a storm. Their weapons shorted out. Their armor stiffened. Their visors cracked. Sully didn't move. She just watched. And the wreck responded to her. It was no longer a dead machine. It was hers now. Luma crawled to her feet, bleeding solely. She called out, "You must stop." The child looked at her, then at Rhys. Then she whispered, "No more cages." The remaining enemy fled. One tried to grab Sully on the way out. A final act of desperation, Rhys tackled him before he reached her. They struggled on the floor, fists and elbows, until Rhys plunged the stun knife deep into the man's neck. The wreck went quiet again. Only the sound of the heater and the soft breathing of the child remained. Luma fell beside her daughter, hugging her tight. "You saved us," she said. "Through tears, you saved yourself." Sully didn't speak. She just leaned into her mother. Her glow slowly fading, resting, not dying. Rhys wiped blood from his face and stood. His arm was burned, his leg twisted, but he was alive. He walked. "To them, time to go," he said. "This place is no longer hidden." Luma nodded. "But where?" She asked. "They'll never stop. They will," Rhys said. "I know a place." A week later, on a remote plateau beneath a rust-red moon, they arrived at an abandoned observation post, half-buried, forgotten, the kind of place no one searched anymore. Inside, Rhys found old equipment, still working. He sent out a message encrypted, short, a code only one man would understand. 3 days later, a supply ship landed in silence. An old friend stepped out, grizzled, older former soldier. "Didn't think I'd see your face again, Rhys." The man said, "You've still got a knack for surviving." "Need a favor?" Rhys replied. "I need new IDs, and I need this girl." and her mother off every database. The man looked at Soli. She stared back, calm and quiet. "You owe me for that time on Calyx 9, Rhys added. The man smiled. "I owed you anyway." It took 3 more days to process everything. Fake names, false history. Rhys was now registered as a colonist father. Luma, his partner. Soli, their daughter. Sickly, nonverbal, unremarkable. The perfect lie to protect the perfect. Truth. One night, as they sat watching the stars, Soli sat on Rhys's lap. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a new drawing. 2 figures again, linked by a glowing line. One tall, one small. In the background, a cage broken open. Above them, a fire and a home. She handed it to him silently. He looked at her. "You see us that way?" he asked. She nodded. Luma leaned against his shoulder. "You gave her more than food," she whispered. "You gave her peace." Rhys looked at them both, then out into the stars. "No," he said. "She gave that to me, and for the first time in a long, long time, he believed it. They weren't running anymore. They were home, at last.